What's going on, Tamers? Your favorite loop gamer, East here, and in BT19, the Sakuyamon deck got a huge bump in power and consistency thanks to some of the new cards it received, but most notably the Taomon Ace. This card's effect gave the deck the ability to play 5 cost or lower options, not only at the level 6s which we had seen in previous sets releases from Sakuyamon and Kazuhamon, but now at the level 5 as well. And so when you pair this with some of the amazing resource options we have in the game that are yellow, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that you can do some pretty wonky stuff with this. And as a result, these past couple of weeks, Sakuyamon Ruin Mode Loop has been really popular in Japan. It's the kind of deck that lets you put your opponent under constant DP minus every single turn, whether it's minus 5,000 or 10,000, while also building up a pretty huge board at the same time, letting it close out games relatively quickly. And so with all that in mind, I figured it'd be interesting to take a look at the deck itself, maybe some of the key cards, how it plays, and maybe how you can fight against it if you see it in your own games. So with that said, let's take a look at Sakuyamon Ruin Mode. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about some of the key cards in the deck. So first off, we're going to talk about the star of the show, which is the Taomon Ace, which is like the ignition for this entire deck. By playing this card down, you're going to get a huge flood of effects that allow you to combo into this huge board. On top of that, we've also got things like the Kazuhamon, which it needs to evolve into, who's going to allow us to continue our combo plays while also letting us play a Taomon Ace from its sources. Additionally, we're going to have something like the BT19 Sakuyamon, who's one of the newer cards, who has some really nice just utility, allowing you to draw cards off of Evolve and then also play down a token whenever you play an option card that's 2 costs or higher. And then on the top end here, we've got, of course, the demon himself incarnate, Sakuyamon Ruin Mode. He wants to tuck all of your opponent's Digimon in, no weenies, only 5,000 or 10,000 or bigger for a turn. And then in order to kind of enable all of this, we've got a couple of options like the yellow Scramble, who's going to let us evolve at cost minus, and also we can use that delay effect later on to get pieces back that we might need. And then also the green Hyper Evolution plugin from EX2, which is going to let us evolve into a Digimon for essentially free after paying the options cost or just using the option card itself. Also letting you draw a card, and remember that evolution has to be a 3 cost or lower evolution. So you can't evolve into Sakuyamon Ruin Mode using this card, but you can evolve into the level 6s from your level 5. After you get a couple of games under your belt, you'll quickly realize that in the early game, your opponent is usually not sitting across the table from you, but rather it's this miserable pile of cards here. Now, what I mean by that is that you're going to have to dig out all the pieces that you need to actually perform your combo to keep playing Ruin Mode over and over, as well as like widening your board at the same time. And so there's a couple of cards that are going to help you do that. Taking a look at Digimon first, we're going to start with the EX2 Renamon, who lets you search for basically one of the Digimon in the Taomon line, or excuse me, the Sakuyamon line. It's hard to not think of the Taomon as the protagonist anymore. While also letting you grab a Rika Tamer as well. Alongside that, you've also got the new BT17 Renamon, who lets you search not only the Taomon cards or the Sakuyamon cards, but also an option card that's 2 costs or higher. Keep in mind, this option does not have to be a plugin, it's just any option that's 2 costs or higher. And then finally, we've got, and this is going to be a weirder pick, I think, for some folks, it's going to be the EX4 Renamon. You're probably thinking, well, why would I want to use this card because it doesn't allow me to search anything? Well, that 1 cost evolve and having 2 colors is going to come in handy a lot when you get to the late game. And because you can evolve this in raising, that like 1 evolve right there is going to be a little bit more draw as well. Whereas you're typically going to be playing these down for the hard cost of 3, you're typically going to evolve into this fella right here for the 1 cost. Yes, you heard me right, you are paying for this evolution, and you'll see in just a moment why. So in addition to those Digimon, you've also got a couple of options and tamers you can help to search out as well. The first one from there is going to be, of course, the tried and true yellow memory boost, letting you search a Digimon from top 4, and then later giving you that sweet +2 memory. Alongside that, you've got something like, and this is probably for Asian players right now only, the Amber or Sepia memory boost, the 2-color memory boost that just got released in the LM4 box, who lets you search 3 and grab a Digimon card, and later on the delay give you +2 similar to the memory boost. For EN players, it's probably, and maybe even some Asian players, you might want to substitute this for a training card like the physical training, the yellow training card that lets you grab any yellow card off of the top 2, and then you can later reduce the cost, although that delay effect is going to be probably less useful in most cases. Alongside that, for tamers, you've also got things like the BT1TK. Now, most of the time you're searching through this bad boy, but you have to remember you have a second hand here, and it might be useful to actually use it to grab something you might need that you may not find in this pile here, or it may take you a long time to find, and TK is the card just for that. Alongside him, you've also got the brand new BT19 Rika Tamer, who lets you search on play for one of the cards in the Sakuyamon line, as well as one of the plugin options. And then later on, whenever you would play an option card that's 2 cost or higher, you can rest her and then gain a memory. So this would be nice to kind of help keep turns as well and not give away too much memory when you're performing your combo. So let's take a look at what some of the early turns might look like getting set up and then going into some of the combos for the deck. So let's imagine you're going first and you open up your, of course, not Viximon, but rather EX7 Hyarimon. You're wondering why Hyarimon, and that's because you mostly just need the blue source to be playing some of the options, things like Kaiser Nail, which are in the deck, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's take a look at what your first turn might look like. You say, okay, I've got to dig some cards out of the deck, so first thing I'm going to do is just play down Rika Tamer here. This gives us yellow source as well, in case we want to play yellow options, and it lets us search on play. So we're going to give away 3, but here we're going to grab one of the cards from the Sakuyamon line and a plug-in. After that, let's imagine that our opponent passes the memory back over to our side at 2, so we've got a couple of options here. We can do something like evolve into something in raising, like I mentioned before, using the Renamon from the EX4 set, which can evolve from a blue card at 1 cost. And again, we're going to pay that, but that's another card draw. And let's imagine we want to do a little bit more searching while also getting some memory here, and we'll go with the yellow memory boost to search out more cards and to get that to +2 later on. Let's imagine again that the opponent passes the memory back over to 2, and so now we've got a little bit of setup here. We can actually begin our loop, and you're probably wondering, well, how can we do that? I'm going to first spend the delay for this yellow memory boost here and go to 4, and then I'm just going to hard play down my Taomon Ace. Now, that might seem weird, but this deck doesn't run any level 4s, or not many at all, maybe like 3 out of 50. And for that reason, you're typically just going to be playing this card down. And that's because on play, you get its effect. And the effect, it lets us just play down any 5 cost or lower option. And we're going to grab from that set the Hyper Evolution plugin S. So again, this is a free cost to play down the plugin. Thank you to the Taomon Ace. Now we can evolve into a 3 cost evolution Digimon for free. So we're going to go into something like the Sakuyamon here. And we'll draw as well from the card's effect and then from the evolve. And then the Sakuyamon itself lets us draw 2, and we can play a 5 cost or lower single color option. And in this case, let's imagine we're going to play something like the Kaiser Nail. So the Kaiser Nail is free here because we have a blue source down in raising. We can actually play this out, and that'll let us just pop the Taomon from our sources into play. And because we did that, the Taomon effect is on play again and activated, and we can play another option on the board. So let's imagine we just so happen to have like another Hyperspeed or Hyper Evolution plugin S. We can do the same thing here and evolve this into Kazuhamon this time. Draw for evolve, draw for the 1 for the option card, and then the Kazuhamon is going to let us also play a 5 cost or lower option. I think you kind of see where this is going at this point. Now, we have to be really careful with the Kazuhamon, because if we evolve this card using its own effect, we can't resolve the secondary effect of playing a card from sources underneath, which is what we want to do. So what I'm actually going to do is just play down something like a yellow memory boost in order to search out 4 more. They'll satisfy this, and then because an option card was played, we can pop the Taomon Ace back out again and get the on-play effect again. And here you could do something, like either another evolution using something like the yellow scramble here, or you might opt for something like a blue card, and we'll talk about why you might want to use one of these 2. So the blue card, maybe you are hoping for a Ruin Mode in your next couple of cards, but you don't want to spend the cost to evolve into a 5 cost to evolve Digimon. So the blue card is a free way to do that by searching 5. It's a bit of a gamble, but if you find him, you can evolve into this guy, for free, or the cost of paying a Taomon, which is in this case free. And then your opponent gets that nice -5k blanket. Yeah, you've got this guy next turn. You've also got a level 6 and a level 5 here as well. And keep in mind, your turn doesn't actually end because you have kind of resolved all of those effects. You can now go back and rest the Rika Tamer because you played a one of many 2 cost or higher options and gain +1 memory, so your turn will continue. And then you might want to cap off a turn by giving your opponent just a little bit of memory, maybe choke them out a little bit with the yellow scramble, and then evolve the Taomon into something like another Sakuyamon. I mean, we would draw 2 more, and then she would let us play an option if we had another one. But you can very quickly see how this steamrolls. Keep in mind that in all of this, I also need to play the 6,000 DP blocker token from the Sakuyamon here, and then I could, if I play one from her, I could also do the same thing again and play another token. And so I've just generated a board of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 Digimon. I've got the 6th one in the back here. I put my opponent under 5 KDP, and they only have 2 memory to work with. So in most cases, I'm going to win the game next turn. As a bit of extra information, I want to kind of rewind here back to the point where I took the Kazuhamon, played the yellow memory boost, and then because of the option being played, I can play the Taomon from its sources as another Digimon. Keep in mind that you cannot use an option card to evolve this Kazuhamon and also get the effect of playing the Taomon underneath. For example, if I would have played a yellow Scramble to evolve this Kazuhamon directly into a Sakuyamon Ruin Mode at cost -3, so it'd be a 2 cost evolve. Because the Kazuhamon is no longer here, the effect to play Digimon up under its sources, or the Taomon under its sources, because of the option, is no longer able to trigger. So I need to make sure that this Kazuhamon stays for the end of its effect. And so for that reason, I played the yellow memory boost. That let me pop out the Taomon Ace here. Now, if I don't want to gamble on one of my next 5 cards being a Sakuyamon Ruin Mode, and I rather just use the one maybe in my own hand, I can play something like the yellow Scramble directly, thanks to the Taomon's effect, and evolve the Kazuhamon here directly into the Sakuyamon Ruin Mode at cost -3, which 5 -3 is still going to be a 2 cost evolve, but he's also going to let me just put the blanket on as well, and that way I don't have to guess at what my next 5 cards are going to be. I can always just guarantee the Ruin Mode down. Not quite as impressive as the board that I built last turn, but still pretty impressive in its own right. A really good rule of thumb that I like to have is that you typically want to use the Hyper Evolution plugin S's in order to evolve into your level 6s, your Sakuyamon or Kazuhamon, and then you can save at least 1 or 2 of your yellow Scrambles, when they're 60%, or blue cards in order to evolve into your Sakuyamon Ruin Mode. Keep in mind, you cannot use Hyper Evolution plugin S to evolve into this guy because his evolve cost is 5, and it requires that it's 3 in order to use this card. So with just that small primer, I think you get the idea of how strong that deck can really be. I mean, there's tons of combos just in like that massive like build-up play, and then, you know, even the turn after that, you can do things like attack with the Sakuyamon Ruin Mode, then it would destroy itself at the end of the attack, give your opponent another -5 KDP, you can recover, and then the following turn, you can just use the yellow Scramble you've had to place the Ruin Mode back on the top of your deck to draw that out, and then to use it again. But again, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. I think I've given you enough here to kind of like whet your appetite, and so you kind of dig in to the rest of the deck if you're interested. But now let's talk about maybe how you can fight against that, because that seems, pardon my Japanese here, a little like bullshit when you're fighting that, right? That's a crazy thing to go up against, and I have really good news for you. What I showed off there was probably one of the more optimistic lines for the deck. Again, you have to amass a lot of pieces in order to get that deck to function, and that's kind of difficult. Keep in mind that space in that deck is really tight. I mean, you're cutting tons of consistency cards in hopes to get that loop out as quickly as possible, but that may force you to also suffer on some draws. As an example, the deck typically only runs 4 level 5s, those being the Taomons themselves, maybe 10 level 3s if you're optimistic, sometimes 8, usually 0 to 3 level 4s, and then 8 level 6s, 4 level 7s, and the rest are just options and tamers. And what may happen in many cases is that you get the Digimon that you need, but you're really missing the options to enable the plays, and that is painful. This, I think, is a very extreme version of a deck, and I think that after playing a couple of games with it, you may feel that you just want to use like a more mid-range or regular style Sakuyamon deck where you have like normal splits of like 12 to 11 level 3s, 10 level 4s, something like 8 level 5s, and then like a couple less level 6s, maybe 6 of those, and then your level 7s, maybe less Ruin Modes. But that way the deck has more consistency, but just doesn't have the highest highs that this deck or the Ruin Mode loop version has. So knowing that it's going to take your opponent a little bit of time to amass the pieces they need to actually get their combo off, that means that you as their opponent also have some time to set up and try to counterplay. Now you can do this by either trying to find Digimon in your deck that can reduce their own play costs that are huge, something like the Ancient Greymon or Ancient Garurumon from the hybrid decks. Maybe something like building up a level 5 and raising so that the turn that their Ruin Mode does come down, the following turn you have some move available to you that can get over a -5k. Also reduced cost Digimon, things like the BT13 Galamon are great. Also some Digimon that have maybe a really chunky cost but also have destruction effects attached to them on play. Things like Leviamon are great here because Leviamon can take out either one of the Digimon that is Taomon or has a Taomon in its sources, and so you can reduce his Digivolution costs, or rather his play costs, in that way. Also, if you're running a yellow or green deck, keep in mind that you can try to search out either a Pomomon or Pillowmon in there, in order to stop your opponent from playing Digimon by effects. If they can't play Digimon by effects, they can't amass this huge army and are stuck with just one single stack that has a Sakuyamon Ruin Mode in it, and if that Ruin Mode dies, the Taomon underneath it dies along with it and they suffer that overflow penalty. Also, I think this might just go without saying, but Digimon basics, just try to choke your opponent out. Try to give them as little memory as possible every single turn, because if they are having trouble amassing cards, only giving them one chance every single turn to try and find the right cards they need is going to be really painful. So yeah, all in all, just to say, the deck has some really high highs. You may think that there are some games where you couldn't have really done much, and of course that does happen. It is a card game after all, but just keep in mind, there are also some really, really low lows to that deck. There are times where I was playing, I thought to myself, man, I might trade away some of the power of this in order to just have more consistency. Maybe just like running some normal splits for my 3, 4s, 5s, and 6s would be nice if I only ran like 2 Ruin modes and then try to win with the cards in the deck, and then maybe like 1 or 2 Ruin modes during the game. So I think the next step here is you're probably wondering, well, where can I find a list for this Doctor Strange-ass, Mirror Dimension-ass woo-woo deck? And I think the answer to that lies in my BT19 Week 3 Meta Report video, where my YouTube members voted to showcase the Ruin Mode loop deck itself. So the only reason we're actually doing this video is because of the YouTube members, so I want to thank them very much for all of their continued support. And if you like this kind of video, do me a favor, either subscribe to the video and or consider becoming a YouTube member yourself as well. You get some really cool perks and bonuses, things like early access to my content, as well as the ability to vote on decks that you want to see featured in Meta Report videos. Oh, also, just one more thing before you get out of here. If you are looking for a more basic version of a Sakuyamon deck, something with some more normal splits other than this min-maxed, I don't know, Hellspawn, then definitely check out my Week 2 BT19 Meta Report video where my YouTube members decided to showcase or voted to showcase that deck as well. Does nobody think it's weird that my YouTube members always vote on Sakuyamon? What does that say about them? What does that say about me? I'm gonna go mull that one over. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Get all nasty.